If your vehicle came from the factory with 4x6 sealed beam headlight housings, you probably already know that upgrading to an LED type housing is a great way to increase style, safety, and performance of your headlights. Some common 4x6 sealed beam headlight part numbers are 1A1 and 2A1, 4656 and 5001. If your original sealed beam headlights match any of those part numbers, something on the table in front of me would be a great direct replacement. As you can see, there's a lot of different options you can choose from, and it's hard for you to know which one's the best for your project. So we went and picked the most popular, best 4x6 LED headlights on the market today, and we will compare them in this video series with beam pattern, advertised lumen rating, and maximum lux using this digital light meter. The United Pacific Reflector series of LED headlights are a good option if you want something that doesn't cost a lot of money, is brighter than stock, but still DOT approved, and has kind of a factory chrome reflector look. And it comes in 3 different styles. You've got the 31365 that has low beam reflector up top and high beam reflector on the bottom. You have the 31396, which is a low beam only. This is the single beam. Or you have the 31397, this one, that's a single beam, high beam only. Now with these two, the 96 and the 97, it's kind of difficult to tell them apart. The part number is printed on the back side of the headlight, and the only differentiating appearance on the front of the lights is inside the lens, right below that little cap that says LED, the reflector has a different shape. That's about it. You really can't tell by looking at the front of them. So look at the back, and there's 2 things on the back side that tell them apart. You have the part numbers printed down here on the butt of the light, but then the low beam has 3 wires, and the high beam only has 2 wires. Now you can see they use the stock H4 style connectors, which makes for a super easy install. Literally, take out your original light bulbs and plug the new ones in. This is what your factory vehicle wiring looks like. It's an H4 style connector with 3 terminals, and it plugs right in. The nice thing about the H4 style connector that they use is the low beam has all 3 wires. Now it only does low beam, but without using all 3 wires, when you switch to high beam, you'd lose your low beam. So when you're picking out a 4x6 LED headlight low beam, make sure you get one that either has all 3 wires or stays on all the time with internal circuitry. This is a good option for that function. On the top, we have some rubber podding to seal up for some circuitry manufacturing. There's this purple moisture vent that exists on all of these headlights, and the wiring is in this really nice black rubber cable that comes out of a waterproof port on the back side of the headlight. You can see that it's roughly the same shape as the original sealed beam headlight, maybe a little bit larger right here around the round part, but for the most part, this is going to fit any application where a stock glass sealed beam 4x6 headlight used to be. Embossed on the front lens, there's some information. In this corner, it says DOT SAE, which indicates it's legal to use these headlights on the street and they will pass inspection. And then at the bottom of the lens, embossed, is the part number of each headlight. Inside, you'll see a multi-surface reflector with a floating cap. Now on the back side of this cap is actually the LED mounted. So the wiring for the LED comes down and it mounts right there on the back side of the cap, and it shines backwards into the reflector. And then all the different shapes of the different reflectors are what create your light output. So even though they look the same, the reflectors are shaped differently, thus creating a different beam pattern. Now the dual beam 31365 is a different story. This one does high beam and low beam in one headlight. As you can see, the low beam looks just like the single beam version, but the high beam is this array of 4 LEDs below it. Now, if you look at the back side, you've got that same H4 style connector and 3 wires. Now this one doesn't just stay on when you go to high beam, it actually changes state. When you fire up low beam, the low beam's on. When you fire up high beam, the high beam's on. My only complaint about this headlight is that you can't have both on all together. High beam will override the low beam circuit. If I plug it in with a factory style H4 connector, we'll get low beam. And then when I trigger the high beam, low beam turns off. And I've tried, there's absolutely no way to get low beam and high beam on without doing some custom circuitry change or rewiring this connector. Next, we're going to compare beam patterns, lumens per headlight, and maximum lux at 25 feet. The way we're going to do that is we're going to set each headlight up 25 feet away from this wall, and then we're going to use our digital lux meter to measure the lux at a certain point. So what's the difference between lumen and lux? Why do you never hear about lux? Honestly, to get the whole picture, you need to compare the three things. The shape of the beam pattern, is it a good beam pattern? The lumen of the LED, is it creating a lot of light? And lastly, how do those two things work together to create a good amount of usable light in front of your vehicle? That's why we measure lux. Now keep in mind, this is semi-scientific. We're using this to measure every single point of the beam pattern, and we're just going to tell you the one point in the whole beam pattern that was the brightest. That's going to be our benchmark for every single headlight. So to get a good feel for what's important, watch all of our videos on all of the 4x6 LED headlight options and compare them yourself. If your vehicle comes with sealed beam headlights, this is what they look like. It's not a very wide beam pattern, it doesn't have a sharp cutoff line, and the light color is this dingy yellow. Now this is low beam, and we measured it at only 650 lux at 25 feet. And here's high beam. You notice it doesn't get any brighter. We measured it again at 650 lux at 25 feet, and the beam pattern just shifts up a little bit. All three of these United Pacific headlights use a polycarbonate lens. They're all DOT approved, made in Taiwan, with a 3-year warranty, and only available in chrome. The 31365 dual beam has a raw lumen output of 700 lumen on low beam and 800 lumen on high beam. We measured maximum lux at 25 feet to be 1,250 lux on low beam and 510 lux on high beam. It draws 1.66 amps of power at 12 volts DC for low beam and 1.52 amps of power at 12 volts DC on high beam. The United Pacific 31396 low beam headlight has a raw lumen output of 400 lumens, and we measured maximum lux at 25 feet to be 2,350 lux per headlight. This headlight draws 0.8 amps of power at 12 volts DC. The United Pacific 31397 high beam advertises a raw lumen output of 550 lumens per light, and we measured maximum lux at 25 feet to be 1,660 lux. This headlight draws 1.1 amps at 12 volts DC. Remember, there's more to picking out your headlight than just the lumen rating. Watch all of our videos for comparisons on beam pattern, lumen, and lux by subscribing to our channel so you don't miss a single 4x6 LED headlight review. You can also find us on Facebook, Google+, and Instagram. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.